I'm going to Burning Man. First timer survival guide? Radical self-expression. That sounds awesome. Radical self-reliance. I'm going to totally be tough. Oh man, that's super great. Participation. I'm totally going to do stuff. Decommodification. Okay, sure. So that's like a reenactment of every Burning Man virgin when they first read the First Timer's Guide. This is actually just a map of Burning Man. We don't have the First Timer's Guide here. But I would like to talk to you about decommodification and why it's so important to Burning Man.
Well, who the hell are you?
That's a good question. I've been going to Burning Man since 2001. That means this will be my 18th year. I've gone every year. I've gone to more than half of the burnings of the man. And so the principles are very dear to me as well. When I'm at Black Rock Desert, I go by the name of Captain Mango, but don't ask, that's a really long story. I'm also a libertarian, mostly, which means that you probably think I'm evil. And that's okay, but this message about decommodification is not one coming from someone who's like, oh, commerce is bad, capitalism must die. I think capitalism is great, but this is about Burning Man. Libertarianism actually is not anti-Burning Man. Like, libertarianism is about freedom. It includes the freedom to create a community such as Burning Man where there is no commodification. It does not include the freedom to join that community and ignore not only the social contract, but the written contract in the 10 principles that you agree to when you buy your ticket. And so what is decommodification? I'm going to read from the Burning Man 10 principles here. Our community seeks to create social environments that are unmediated by commercial sponsorships, transactions, or advertising. So this isn't just about money. There's no transactional exchanges. So that's why it's not a barter economy. It's a gift economy. And it's not just gifts because, oh, isn't it great to give gifts to everyone? That's crucial to the health of Burning Man. It's the reason why you probably don't carry a wallet around when you are at Burning Man. And there are two fundamental reasons for why this is important. One is a little more obvious. Let's tackle the easier one first. If you allowed money, transactions at Burning Man, then there would be businesses. And the problem with that is that effectively Burning Man would turn into a festival. You'd end up having, the Esplanade covered with places where you can buy food and slushies and alcohol, t-shirt sales everywhere. I mean, that's fine. If you want to go hang out at a Grateful Dead parking lot, that's great, but that's not what Burning Man is about. I remember one of the things that struck me the most in my early years of Burning Man. In 2003, this group brought this roller coaster that they had built. They had just built by welding together steel tubing. It was huge and it was metal and it was amazing. And there were people lined up all over and they were dancing on it. And it was incredible. This roller coaster in the desert. But if you allow commerce, then right next to that will be some actual amusement park will bring a commercial roller coaster and you buy some tickets and you'll go on the ride. And neither of them will be great. It destroys this amazing offering we have. But on top of that, if somebody's bringing a roller coaster, then why would anyone build one and go through all that trouble of building one at home and then bringing it and setting it up in the desert? There's no reason to. Or there is, because you're going to charge money for it. And then suddenly we're all paying money for this experience in the desert. And I don't know, why not just go to Six Flags Great America? This video is not sponsored by Six Flags Great America. The second reason is more subtle. The community has very clear views on plug-and-play camps, right? They're evil, Satan, worse than libertarians. But what if it's on a smaller scale? Like, what if somebody's just making a little bit of money off Burning Man, maybe to run a camp? Is that okay? And this was raised recently because there was a theme camp, and it was discovered that the camp dues ended up being 3 times the cost to run the camp. And instead of returning some of those dues or lowering camp dues next year, or maybe putting the money aside to make a better camp offering, about half of the camp dues were silently slid into the pocket of one of the camp leads. About $10,000. Oops. Surprisingly, there was drama. Surprisingly, first ever theme camp at Burning Man to have drama. There was also serious issues of transparency. The vast majority of campers were shocked when they discovered this and pretty angry, to which the response was, well, you didn't ask. Which isn't actually even true in all the cases, but regardless, there is a general understanding that at Burning Man that people aren't getting paid for their work. And why does that matter? The argument was basically that he'd done so much work off Playa that he was basically recompensating the money he could have made at a job or something. And while we can pretend that Burning Man is all about no commerce, the reality is off Playa, we have to spend quite a bit of money and effort to do, all the transportation and all the materials to get ourselves out to Burning Man. And while that's true, that doesn't make it forgivable to turn what is effectively a Burning Man exchange of receiving camp dues for the sake of, being part of a camp and a camp offering into an off-playa business expense and profiting. I've heard the argument described the most succinctly thusly. Imagine your camp needs to unload a bunch of storage, and there aren't enough campmates either at the location or who can get there. And the consequence is that you need to pay some day laborers to help you load all your storage into a truck. Wouldn't you rather pay your own campmates and let them make some money than pay some day laborers? No. What you don't realize is that you've opened up a Pandora's box full of poison. Can we play some dramatic music right there? No? Oh. I would argue that if you need to pay day laborers at all, you're doing it wrong. If your camp is not sustainable, then maybe it needs to die. Camps die. It happens. Or maybe you can fix it, but camp shouldn't be paying, money for work that campers should be doing. But somehow, if you're somehow in a bind and you need to do this, then, fine. Does it make more sense to pay day laborers or to give money to your campmates? It makes so much more sense to give the money to the day laborers. And the reason is because the day laborers don't care about your Burning Man offering, probably. They're not going to do the work unless you pay them. But your campmates should do the work. And besides, your campmates get to go to Burning Man. And that's more important than money, last I checked. If it's not, I'm not sure why they're camping there. Plus, there are plenty of other people who are in the camp who are working very hard, both on-plan and off-plan. How much is that worth? How much do they get paid? Maybe we should have, annual reviews and raises and bonuses, and then, we can have a holiday party, and then just stop. That's a business. Burning Man is not a business. Theme camp should not be a business. A really good example of this was that there is a private Facebook group for theme camp organizers, and somebody posted that this happened, and there were hundreds of comments before they finally stopped allowing comments on this thread that were all universally screaming no, not like that, except maybe one or two camp leads who were jokingly wait, I could have gotten paid. That's not what Burning Man's about. Burning Man is about love, not business or money, and it has to be that way. It can't exist any other way. Do you really think that your camp can run as a profitable business? The reality is no, you're never going to have enough money to pay people any sort of reasonable wages. So what's going to happen is some people will get some crappy wages and the rest of the people won't, but they're paying the camp dues that create those wages, and poison everywhere. Now maybe you have people who work harder than your average camper, probably. You've got your hard workers, your leads and whatnot. And maybe you want to go ahead and, they don't have to pay camp dues, or maybe you even give them a ticket to Black Rock City, or even maybe cover their airfare. And that's fine, because that's not really compensation as much as it's recompensation. It's covering costs that they have to pay in cash in order to accomplish getting to Burning Man. And if you do that within reason, and if it's transparent, hopefully, that's one thing. But when you start giving people wages and they start profiting off of Burning Man, even with crappy profits, that's a totally different story. And you could say, but if I'm doing off-playa work, I could be a job instead, making money. So there's a cost just for doing this work. And you know what? Being at Burning Man, you could be at work as well. And it's not what Burning Man is about. Go do your work if you need to. Burning Man is about sacrifice. It takes some amount of financial freedom. Although, it's not just about a bunch of rich kids playing. If you actually look at the census data, then you'll see that the income curves at Burning Man are actually very similar to the real world. Once you get past the poverty level. I'll have a link down in the description to an analysis I did about this. But Burning Man is about sacrifice. And some of the biggest work I've ever done for Burning Man was during a time when I had pretty much no money at all, but I had a lot of time. So if you can't make the sacrifice, that's fine. But you don't get to make part of the sacrifice and get part of your sacrifice paid back by the camp dues that other people are paying for under the impression that they're trying to support the camp. Because if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, that's fine. Maybe Black Rock City's not for you. And it's better to find that out than to go and have this fake Burning Man experience. You know? Or maybe you need to dial back. Really, in the end, we all have to figure out what we're willing to do to make Burning Man happen and find the people that we're willing to work with to make that happen. So, hope to see you on Playa. Come by our theme camp. We'll be selling t-shirts and souvenirs. We have a really cool gift. Have a great time getting ready for the burn.